Hello, everyone. It's Friday, November the 19th. We've got some exciting stuff to talk to you about. We'll be quick here and everything today, but and then we'll take your questions naturally. But as we announced before, Prime 6. That's Kevin O'Leary and the Shark Tank folks and all the stuff from the standpoint of this exciting company, this unbelievable international, businessman. They're all coming to West Virginia, and they're coming on Friday. We had to move locations and everything. We first started with them, in Upshur County. We developed some environmental issues that Prime 6 wasn't aware of and everything. So instead of just leaving West Virginia, we placed them in Marion County. They were excited about, the site there and everything. And so this is going to be in Marion County. We're going to be in Fairmont, and Kevin O'Leary is going to be with us. And it ought to be a really exciting day. 10:30 tomorrow, the groundbreaking will be at 10:30 and on the site. Later that day, a community town hall will be held at 5 p.m. at the Fairmont National Guard Armory, offering networking opportunities and on-site job applications. So, good day, good stuff, more good stuff coming to West Virginia, and that's all great. We just can't get, we're to all these other places and everything, but we have $29 million in abandoned mine land economic revitalization grants. There's 12 projects across the state and everything, and we've been to a couple and everything, but I'm going to read through the ones that the awards are going to and everything, and so as far as the anxiousness and everything of these folks, we just can't get to all of them. We will get to some of them and present the check, ceremonial check signing or check, delivery and everything, but we just can't get to all of them. That's just all there is to it, especially with all that's going on. So I'm sure you understand, but nevertheless, I'm going to read through them. In Fayette County Adventures, West Virginia, $3 million. In Kanawha County, the Air Raid Bike Park Phase 2, $1,225,000. Logan County, White Mountain Lodging, $1,549,000. Mingo County, Cumberland Village, $1,950,000. We've been to Monongalia County and everything, at Milan Park and everything, at the KOA, the resort and the campground Phase 2 was $1 million. Nicholas County, the Cranberry Tri-Rivers Rail Trail. Now, of all these, that's the one that I love more than anything, because absolutely those rivers, in Nicholas County are unbelievable. The draw from the standpoint of tourism, economic development, all awfully good stuff right there. But the Cranberry Tri-Rivers Rail Project in Richwood will improve 16 miles of rail trail. It's really neat stuff, good stuff. In Ohio County, the Wheeling Gateway Project and everything, $4.4 million, we've been there. Preston County, the TAZ site development of $3,957,000. Awful good stuff that's happening right there in Preston County. In Raleigh County, the Clear Fork Rail Trail, I guess Phase 2, $4,450,000. Great stuff. Tucker County, the National Youth Science Academy Davis Campus, $2,337,000. In Wayne County, the Rustic Ravines Lodging and Tourism Attraction Plan, $1,500,000. And in Wyoming County, the Landing Strip, $2 million. So all these projects, we have recommended all these projects, and they total $28,666,000. Awful good stuff and everything happening right there right here in West Virginia. So So I just felt like that it's really important that we get those out. We've tried to get to these places, and we'll get to some of them still, but we just can't get to all of them. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's a heck of a problem to have, when you really think about it. I mean, we can't get to all the goodness, It's so good. It is so great and everything. A lot of good stuff happening right in West Virginia today. Down at West Virginia State, we'll be there today at 1 o'clock for the groundbreaking of the new Ag Lab and everything. Awful good stuff that's happening right there on the campus at West Virginia State. And then we'll leave there, and at 2 o'clock, we'll be at the celebrating the grand opening of the Nitro St. Albans bridges, on I-64. $250 million project, and the largest in our Roads to Prosperity program and everything. Gosh, we should never, ever forget. October the 7th, lots of tough stuff happened on October the 7th, but on October the 7th, the voters of West Virginia voted absolutely to accept and that they wanted the Roads to Prosperity program. And look what's happened. Just look what's happened. West Virginia took off like a rocket ship. In all honesty, tens of thousands of jobs, all the goodness on our highways all over the place. My gracious sakes of living, what an incredible day. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever, ever forget that. More good news that we're happy to announce that West Virginia has achieved a remarkable 36% decrease in overdose deaths from January to May of 2024 compared to the same period in 2023. I think this is the second go round, but really, really great stuff there. And the last thing I'd tell you is just this, that the firearm seasons for bucks, start, on Monday, November 25th. Wear your blaze orange. Absolutely be careful in every way. Handling a high-powered rifle, they shoot a long, 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 long ways, and you just can't shoot over a hill and everything, not know your background where you're shooting and everything. Be really, really careful and everything. It's an incredible time of year, and go and enjoy, especially if you're going with a family member. It's just absolutely incredible. It's just a tradition in this great state that we should always, hold close to our heart. But be careful and observe, all the laws and everything. But be especially careful, and it doesn't matter, be super careful about where you're shooting, and we wish you the very best of luck. Be careful if you're having to go across a fence or something like that. Use the proper techniques and everything. For God's sakes of living, don't lean the gun up against the fence and start climbing on the fence. I mean, bad things happen. Bad things can happen with this many folks going out into the woods and everything. So watch what you're doing and enjoy. God bless. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Governor. We'll now take questions from members of the media. Our first question today from Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good morning, Governor and fellow reporters and staffers. Governor, as you know, the public hearings regarding PEIA are ongoing this week in the state, this month. There was a virtual one last night. Tonight they're in Morgantown, and this coming Thursday they'll be at the Culture Center. I realize you're about to leave the governor's office, but what advice do you have for the next governor and the next legislature? It just seems like year after year we're coming back to this problem over and over again, and a lot of PEIA premium and deductible increases are wiping out any pay raises state employees have. What's your advice on trying to fix this once and for all?
Well, Mark, we went down a path, of a permanent revenue source. We couldn't quite get across the finish line on that. But Mark, and I'm not tooting my horn in any way, but you know what I've done. I mean, for crying out loud, we kept premiums and we've kept them flat. We went 2 years ago, went almost 6 years without any increase whatsoever. We funded it through surpluses or rainy day dollars or whatever it was and everything. And we did that because I truly believe that our state employees work really hard and they do really good work. And so I tried with all in me to never increase the premiums and to never increase the cost of PEIA, because these folks are not just paid, outlandish salaries and so on. And so they need us to stand up for them and try to help them. And I would advise, or recommend rather, to any future governor and everything that this is not easy to handle. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I say over and over and over that, when it really boils right down to it, doing this job, you got to be on your toes. And you got to be somewhat of a business guy, or you got to surround yourself with people that know numbers and know what we can do and how to do it and how to fix it and everything. Because if you don't, you're going to lay real burdens on people. So now just think, through that 6-year period and everything, or through that, for 6 years, we were flat for all practical purposes in regard to the premiums and everything, or the cost. And then we went to an 80-20 plan. And when we did that, what we really tried to do was we tried to more than cover the cost, the increase in cost. We tried to more than cover it with pay raises and tax breaks and those kind of things. Mark, I can tell you that through the period, the average, salary that the average state employee is putting in their pocket today, the cumulative of 5 pay raises and everything is about $13,000+ a year. And the increase in cost is not a lot of money. And that doesn't count really our reductions in our tax breaks. So with all that being said, listen, we can put it all together and it sounds good. And Jim could sit back and say, well, listen, we got you all these pay raises and we got you all these tax breaks. But Mark, and Jim knows this, our families are hurting every way in the world and doing everything they can to get by. Now they are. And so from the standpoint of the future governor, my advice would be feel that and know that. It doesn't matter that we got a pay raise. For God's sakes, 11 eggs cost 8 times more, or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter that we really did a tax break, that we put a few extra dollars in people's pockets. When they go to the gas station and fill up, it's $3, maybe $3.50 a gallon. I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we need to try to take care and support our state workers and absolutely cover, more than cover, their cost or their increase in PEI. So that would be my recommendation, and we can do it, but it takes business talent and it takes people that are really good with numbers to figure it out. But just don't get hung up on something to say, well, you got all those pay raises, so you really don't need anything here. Come on. I mean, come on. These people are great people, and they're doing all they can possibly do. Let's don't forget them.
Mark, thank you. Next up is John Mark Shaver with WV News.
Good morning, Governor. Touching on the Prime 6 relocation, could you be a little bit more specific about where in Marion County that will be and what we're doing to make sure those environmental problems don't happen again? Thank you.
Well, what happened, as I understand it, the building in Upshur County, just to tell it like it is, when we got into all the nitty-gritty of the building, there were those environmental problems that I referred to there, and they had not been disclosed to Prime 6. Well, that was a mistake. I mean, I don't care how you cut it. It was just a mistake from our economic development folks, and they just missed it. And so all of a sudden then we had to scramble, to try to do everything we could possibly do, and to make sure that that we had another site and more proposals to them, and we did that. And there was surely concern on my part that we were going to lose them, and so the facility, I guess the specific address, I can't give you the specific address of that facility and everything, but it's a much larger facility, and and they seem really happy, and that's the bottom line.
Thank you, John Mark. Next up is Amelia Nicely with West Virginia Watch.
Hi, good morning, Governor. I have a question for you about the West Virginia Children's Home in Elkins closing. In 2019, you and former Health Secretary Bill Crouch announced that this would be turned into a children's crisis center because children were ending up in emergency rooms for days waiting to be evaluated. I was wondering if this children's home ever became a crisis center, and if you could share more on why the center is closing, and if you feel we have enough residential treatment beds for children in West Virginia.
Okay. Let me just say just this. The building is 100+ years old. And we tried to do what we could and everything to keep it in working order. From what I understand, the kids that are there, it's like, and one kid every 10 years is one kid that we don't want to lose. But from what I understand, the primary folks that are there are truancy problems. And with all that being said, we're just going to move, I think the numbers, from what I'm told, are really small. Maybe 2 kids a month or some number like that. And so we're going to move those folks to Parsons from Elkins, and like I said, the building's going to cost $8 million to fix. The building's falling all to pieces and everything, and so it's just a right and smart thing to do. And but nevertheless, I think Kim's with us today, from DHHR, and Kim talked to us, and you know a lot more about this than I do.
So I'm Cami Chapman from the Department of Human Services, and in our consideration of making the decision to close the children's home, we believe that working with our current residential providers is the most effective way and appropriate way to serve the children in the community and in for their needs. As to the crisis center, we have been exploring over the last few years of what a crisis center may look like, how it would be operationalized, but the facility has never been utilized as a crisis center.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Okay, CJ, I'm back to you.
Yep, thank you, Governor. Yep, Amelia, thank you. Next up is Stephen Adams with Ogden News.
Yeah, Governor Steve Adams with Ogden Newspapers here. There was a school board meeting last week that went into a little bit of the school consolidation issue across the state. We've seen decreasing student enrollment for a number of factors. And in the last year, I think we've seen 8 public schools disappear either due to consolidation or closing and being moved into other schools. Again, this is sort of a question that is kind of really going to be for the next governor to figure out. But part of the funding for schools comes from the state school aid formula. Is that something that needs to be relooked at in how we distribute that? We do it primarily per student, but is that something that needs to be explored by future governors in exactly how the state funds school systems to deal with decreasing enrollment? Thanks.
Well, Stephen, the best way to deal with this, hands down, is have increasing enrollment. And, that's where the Berkshire Hathaways and the Nucors and on and on and on, and, Prime 6 and all this stuff that we've laid the groundwork, and we hope that we're going to have more and more and more, employees, and then, that morphing into more and more and more employees, and therefore, with employees, you usually have younger folks, and they have children, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, we have what we want, and that is increased enrollment. Now, Stephen, but to answer your question, I mean, I don't have any way to say this. It makes me sick to see a school close. I don't like it. I don't like it a bit in the world. And as far as evaluating the school aid formula and everything, we've done a lot of work on that, and I would welcome the governor to be, to work it as best he possibly can. It's a difficult problem, but with all that being said, I don't want those schools to close. I don't want any of our schools to close, but really, as we move forward in life, I guess it's any state, and I don't know this for sure, and this is my just gut that would tell you that as you move forward, certain communities lose, folks that are living in those communities, and they relocate or whatever that to another area of the state, and lo and behold, like, if you were to say, well, what happened in our counties when the coal industry just died and everything, well, lots and lots and lots of people left, and when that happens and everything, schools get down to where they just have a very bare minimum number of people or kids, and then, the classes are difficult for the school to be able to offer all the classes that those kids really, really, really need, and so or get the great education that we want them to have, and so I think that's a process that just is an ever evolving type process and everything. But I'm telling you, Stephen, I would welcome the governor to work more diligently on the school aid formula and see if they can find something that we missed, or maybe we improved it, X, and they can improve it 2X. And so with all that being said, it's a hard problem, and I really do hate us losing any school, and I look forward to the days when we just are increasing population like crazy, and that's why I've been a gigantic advocate of getting rid of our personal income tax. It is impossible to argue that if we had our personal income tax gone in West Virginia, we would awaken to a bundle of people that would be coming to West Virginia. So let's just keep working it. We've got a great start on everything, and I'll stand ready at any time to help the governor to be, and or not help. Either way is good with me.
Stephen, thank you. Next up is Brad McElhaney with West Virginia Metro News.
Hey, Governor. Hey, hope you're doing well. Just want your impressions of visiting the U.S. Senate last week, but I also have a more specific question. You have been a real advocate for vaccinations, particularly when COVID-19 was spreading across the state. That was an emphasis of your administration, to get people vaccinated and to protect vulnerable people like kids. The nominee to be the next U.S. Secretary for Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has called COVID shots, quote, a crime against humanity, and claimed children did not need COVID vaccines. As someone with the Senate's advise and consent responsibility, what's your initial take on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health Secretary? Thank you.
Well, Brad, first of all, I've never met him, And but I can tell you this, you know, we've learned a lot, haven't we? I mean, really and truly, gracious goodness, let's be really fair. You know, all of a sudden, you know, this pandemic hits and none of us, not a living one of us, had ever seen anything like it. You know, Donald Trump scrambled in every possible way that he could to get us the vaccines. And Donald Trump and all of his administration promoted those vaccines like crazy, and we all jumped behind it, and I was 100% on board. Now we learn more, don't we? Now we learn really and truly in many ways there are people or there's medical knowledge that maybe, just maybe, they didn't help much. You know, on the other hand, you know, we were so frenzied, you know, that you know, our folks in our nursing homes or whatever, God knows we saved a pot full of lives, and that's all there is to it. And we saved them, you know, like it or not like it, no matter what anybody says, we saved an awful lot of lives and everything because they were vaccinated. And I was a proponent of that, and I do think we did the right thing there. Now, you know, I may have an adversarial opinion, you know, from a standpoint, you know, of our new appointee and everything, but I will just say just this. Today we know so much more. That's all there is to it. We know so much more today. And really, Donald Trump, and I am supportive 1,000%, he's got to appoint the team that he believes in. We got to absolutely be fair about this. And we got to give them time to get their feet underneath them and do the job that I know they'll do. You know, absolutely, I am supportive of his choices because I've got that level of faith in him. And I absolutely believe with all in me, and I'll support, you know, all the choices and everything, you know, but I do think that every one of these folks deserves a fair shot. That's all there is to it. You know, I don't know how we can stand, even though we'll do it and I'll do it objectively, I'll promise you that. But I don't know how we can stand and say, you know, because he was one way, you know, he won't be fair or he won't be objective or she won't be fair or won't be objective and everything. I don't think that's fair right now. I think we all know and say what we want. You know, we all know that there was things probably that Biden administration was doing correctly. I think overwhelmingly it was an absolute dog's mess. Everywhere you turned, you know, and everything they did, for all practical purposes, were just absolutely a mess. So really and truly, this country's got to get on the right foot. And absolutely, we got to get back to the foundations about what made us this country. And if we don't watch out, we're going to lose who we are, period. So no, I'm really supportive.
Okay, thank you, Brad, and everybody else. Governor, back to you.
Well, I guess, you know, from the standpoint going through real quick, you know, we welcome Prime 6, Friday, 10:30. Everybody remember in Marion County, you know, we'll be there and all that'll be really good stuff. Congratulations to all the winners and everything on the AML grants and everything. And we celebrate a gigantic lab, a $50 million project at West Virginia State University. How can it be any better than that? And absolutely a $254 million project, the biggest in our Road to Prosperity history and everything, right out there with these bridges and everything. That really, really good stuff. So only other thing I'd say is be super careful in this deer season to come up. And nevertheless, you know, just remember, I'm not done. We've still got almost 2 months, and we're going to run through the finish line. we're going to keep doing good stuff and everything and try to do as much good stuff as we can before we get to the end. And then we're going to welcome a new governor and be excited about him and be supportive. But for Patrick and Denise, we'll be swinging on your behalf every day. So thank you so much.